We represent and make efforts to industry companies and startups in all they want from A, B, or C sectors and whatever size they have. And we deliver unique solutions, integrated and customized because we are many and at the same time we are one. So live this transformation. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the International Seminar of Graphic Market with the consumption segments, infograph products, and the new position of printing production. It's a pleasure to invite our CEO, Eduardo, to open this event. Thank you, Carla. I would like to greet everyone here, ladies and gentlemen, all the panelists and guests, and all of you watching us via YouTube. It's a great pleasure to be part of this opening session of this international event of such an important segment in the Brazilian industry. I would like to start thanking the ABIGRAF for the support on the behalf of Sidney and Anversa so that this international seminar could be a reality. I also thank for the presence of important specialists that are here in this international panel. So Frank Romano and David Zwang, thank you for being here. And in the national panel, we'll have Sid from Anversa and my colleague Cristhine Samorini, the head of the Industry Federation of the State of Espírito Santo, and commercial director of Grafitusa printing house, Alex Santos, that is the financial manager of the INS printing house, and the director of Firjan and Vozes printing house. And I would like to greet you on your role as the mediator, Carla Geraldo. So you are a technician of Firjan Senai, and also we have here Ivo Daflan, that is our colleague and CEO of Graphic and Holograph. And lastly, I would like to thank our colleague Carlos Dujó, manager of Firjan, for the initiative of having such a nice event. Now I pass on the floor to Carla for the mediation of the first panel. Thank you all. Carla, please. Her mic is off. To start our international panel, we are happy to invite the president of the Institution of Massachusetts and professor of technology in Winchester and author of many papers for publications in North America, Europe, Asia, East Orient, and he was the director of the paper Fox Power for many years. He is Frank Romano. Mr. The floor is yours. Mr. Frank? Mr. Frank? Okay, he is connecting now. Thank you. Mr. Frank, you are on mute, if you can hear me. Mr. Frank, can you hear us? Vocês conseguem me ouvir agora? Okay, now we can hear you. Okay.
My slide.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm all set. I'm all set to go now.
Sure, please. You need to restart.
Okay. Wow. All right. Thank you, everybody. As you all know, I was in Rio in 2016. I came on the Queen Mary 2 on a ship. I think the last person that came on the ship was Cabral in 1500 when he discovered Brazil. In any case, in my short presentation, I wish to talk about what I call the new print industry. I want to talk about change, how the industry is changing on a very rapid basis. Just go back and look at some of the early technologies that we lived through. Photographic typesetting, if you remember, replaced hot metal typesetting. And then laser imaging replaced photo typesetting. And now digital printing is growing exponentially. Computer to plate is starting to decline in many areas, and DI technology has really never made it. If you look at the printing process, we have gone through significant change. We went from letterpress to offset. Offset lithography took over 80 years to be accepted. For many years, it was considered only for quick and dirty printing. And now, of course, offset lithography dominates. However, it is being challenged very quickly by digital printing. If you look at the technologies that came about in this period from 1972 up till 2020, we had the desktop publishing era, when we started to do work on computers that bypassed many of the traditional services. So, for instance, you had typesetting services. It was a multi-billion-dollar business in the United States. If you wanted typeset, you went to someone who set the type for you. Once we started using computers and putting our own pages together, that entire industry disappeared. Then we entered the internet era, which we're still in, by the way. We went through the dot-com boom, but now, of course, the internet is dominating everything we do. And with the pandemic here in the United States, I mean, education, working from home, it has changed the very nature of our society and continues to do so. Now we're in the social media area, where we all have a gigantic platform and can talk to millions of people if we so desire. And everyone, of course, carries a mobile device with them. I can't imagine anyone who does not have such a thing. What happened was printing changed, and we lost a major part of the printing industry. Now, all of my statistics are based on the United States, but they are applicable in many cases for almost any country you can imagine. So if we look at the industry, what has happened is about 42% of American printing went electronic. PDF files that are being transferred, printing files that are being transferred, jobs that used to be in print that are now in electronic form. They're either on websites or on blogs or on social media. 11% went offshore. A lot of book work is done overseas. However, it really has to do with manufacturing. If we manufacture a product in China, the packaging is being produced in China. And so we're losing that volume of packaging printing. And then, of course, everyone now has a home or office printer of some sort. And so they're spending a fortune on ink to print things out conveniently, where the ink costs as much as champagne or more. So the printing industry today is a shadow of what it used to be. At one time, this chart would have been 100% commercial print. And over the last 2 generations, it has shifted. Now, I use the word gazillion, meaning we all use email. Setting up this meeting required many emails. I had a little study done once by my students, and we discovered that there are 3 trillion PDFs on the internet at any given moment in time. So all of those PDFs, well, most of those PDFs would at one time been print. So print is not one thing, it is many things. It is advertising and promotional material, it is packaging printing, financial printing, stationery, forms, periodicals, newspapers, books, catalogs, directories, technical documentation, direct mail, and what I call functional and industrial. Every one of those areas has changed. Every one of them has seen significant declines or modifications over the last decade or so. Financial printing, annual reports are no longer printed. They're done in electronic form. A lot of catalogs are gone because we go to Amazon in order to buy things. Direct mail has become email blasts. So every category has been affected in some way by digital approaches. And if we look at paper tonnage, the growth of paper-based printing grew through the 1950s, but by the time we got to 2000, as we went electronic, it started to decline. But there are new markets that have been built by digital technology. On-demand books. More books are produced today in the United States using on-demand technology than traditional long-run offset technology. Large format signage was a market that didn't exist before 1995 unless you use screen printing. Today it's done digitally. Short-run labels, especially produced with digital devices. Variable data direct mail, personalized mail, if you will. Digital embellishment, 3D printing, fabric printing, and just about anything that is short-run. Today, digital and wide format printing have helped printers get through the last recession and are helping them now because they are creating new markets for printers. And that's what printers have to do, is they must find new markets. Most of the growth today is through merger and acquisition. There is very little organic growth in the printing industry today in the United States. If you see any growth at all, it's because two companies have merged. There's a lot of legacy equipment. We are still using printing presses that are 20 and 30 years old. But now the problem is going to be, where will the people come from to run those machines? Training people on older devices is not going to be an easy task. Most of the skill sets of the industry are now shrink-wrapped, as I like to say. They are software, they are programs, they are apps. And so that is where we are seeing many of the jobs go. The traditional jobs in the printing industry have become, if you will, programs. We are developing new markets. Packaging is growing because there's no way to send a box of Wheaties over the internet. Holograms on tags, because security printing is becoming a very important part of what we do. And now we're starting to see the growth in fabric printing. If we look into the future, if you look at what is happening with paper volumes going down, in fact, many paper manufacturers are closing their mills, we're seeing that we have to stop printing on something other than paper. We're already printing on plastics, textiles are growing, fabrics, of course, carpeting, metal, wood, glass, printed electronics. For many years, these products were printed on with screen printing. Now we're into flatbed inkjet. That is where the growth is today. We're moving ahead with printing on all these new materials besides paper. So if we look at the future, we have to say digital printing must become more expansive. It must print on things other than paper. Digital printing must print signatures as well as pages. Many of the newer B1 and B2 printers are using inkjet. Digital print must handle spot colors. They must handle the traditional Pantone colors. Digital printing must handle more coatings. Digital printing must handle special effects. Digital printing must be faster than it is today. It must be more automated. It will develop new products and new markets. The future is really in digital printing, printing on paper, and all these new products. The future of print is print. Thank you, everybody. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Romano. Now let's have the first question that was sent by Mr. José Magno Hoffman. He is the Vice-president of Firjan and the head of the printing union, and he's a partner at Hoffman Printing House. And he asks, Do you consider the limitations of digital printing when compared to offset printing will overcome, and how many years do you believe we'll need for the digital printing to dominate the sector? Mr. Frank?
Here. I'm sorry, I didn't hear any translation. So
Eu não ouvi a tradução, então não sei.
Vou repetir aqui para o senhor.
I will repeat here for you. Do you consider that limitations of the digital printing, when compared with the offset printing, will be overpassed? How many years do you believe that this digital printing will dominate the sector? Eu não tenho tradução.
here, English.
O senhor está com fone.
Eu não tenho os fones. Eu peço desculpas, eu não estou entendendo. Do you consider that the limitations of digital printing when compared to the offset printing will be overcome? Me desculpa, eu não estou ouvindo a tradução. Carla, can you ask in English? Ask the ones who are translating that to speak slowly, that we will do it. Yes? I will read again the question, okay? Do you consider the limitations of digital printing when compared with the offset printing will be overcome? In how many years?
Thank you for translating for me. Digital printing, yes, has limitations over offset lithography, but it has major advantages over offset lithography. It can handle very short runs. It can handle personalization. It can handle on-demand printing. It can link up bindery systems online. So yes, offset lithography, which has been around for a long time, dominated. However, just like letterpress started to change when offset came in, so we're seeing that offset is changing as digital printing is coming in. And so today, very few offset presses are being sold. If you look at the sales of equipment today in the United States, it is mostly digital printing. And it's very rare that we see companies buying major offset presses. So yes, digital printing has some weaknesses, but it also has many advantages for today's printing company because customers are not buying long runs anymore. And although many new offset presses can do short runs very effectively,
Muito obrigada, Mr. Frank. Mr. Frank, o senhor consegue nos ouvir? Can you hear? Acho que ele... Então, vamos passar. Mr. Frank, can you hear us?
okay, somehow I lost everybody.
Yes.
Okay, I think I pretty much covered that question.
Ok, Mr. Frank. Então, temos aqui uma segunda pergunta, Mr. Frank.
Excuse me?
We have a second question, Mr. Frank.
Okay, please.
Então, essa pergunta, ela veio da senhora Márcia Carestiato. Ela é presidente do Sindicato das Indústrias Gráficas de Nova Friburgo. e diretora executiva na Gráfica Carechiato. Ok?
Ok.
Vamos. Cris, a pergunta é a seguinte. Vamos uma dobradinha, Cris?
Tá bom.
O senhor acredita que o tempo de produção...
Do you believe the production time,
a personalização...
the personification,
e impressão sob demanda visando o custo...
and on-demand printing? Think about what? What did you say?
Cost.
When you think on-demand cost, on-demand cost.
Okay, excellent. That's a very good question, because when you look at the cost of digital printing versus offset, offset is less expensive when you have long runs, because you're absorbing the make-ready in each unit, whereas digital printing has a level cost structure. That is, every unit is the same cost. Digital printing has that particular approach. Now, that means then that for very long runs, digital printing is less effective than offset. So that's why most printers today have both offset and digital. However, there are markets growing up where they don't need the long runs, where digital does the job. And new digital devices are starting to be much more effective at handling what I call longer, short runs. And so as that evolves, we will see more of a shift. We've already seen a very large amount of offset printing shift over to digital, and that continues to this day. So yes, there's no doubt that offset is less expensive, but for long runs. For short runs, digital printing is more effective.
Muito obrigada, Frank Romano. Thank you very much for explanation. Mr. Romano, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I did. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for your explanation. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And now we are called to Mr. David. Thank you very much, Mr. Romano.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Ainda em nosso painel internacional, temos o prazer de convidar o principal consultor da Zwang Company, uma empresa especializada em análise de processos e desenvolvimento estratégico nas áreas de informação e impressão de produtos, embalagens e publicações. Sua expertise em otimização de produção, planejamento estratégico de negócios e análise de mercado tem transformado muitos e desenvolveu treinamentos para a indústria e escreveu inúmeros artigos. Também preside o GWG Gantt Work Group. Sr. Zwang.
Mr. Zwang, welcome. Sim, bom dia.
Just make me a presenter and I'm going to share my screen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just waiting. Somebody's got to make me a presenter so I can share my slides.
Okay, Mrs. Wang.
No, it says that I can't. It says I can't share.
Hold a second, please.
We could try something different, but I don't think so. You can't see this, can you? No.
No, not yet.
So whoever has the control needs to allow me to share. Right now, I'm not a presenter.
Okay. Okay, hold a second, please.
Sure.
Could you try again?
It's still grayed out. It says only present. It shows that I'm not a presenter. So you need to make me a presenter.
All right, just a second.
There we go. Now we got it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, good morning. Buen dia. You can see the slides okay? How's that? Good morning. First of all, it was nice to hear my old friend Frank Romano and take a look at his future view of the print world. I think that one of the things that, and Frank was actually really did describe some of the many changes that are occurring, and there are lots of changes that are coming. So as a print service provider, whether you're in packaging or commercial print or signage, how do you keep up with these market changes? Because ultimately that is really the main issue, and that's going to be the differentiator. That's going to be what allows you to become profitable and grow in the new markets. You've already understood who I am. I'm involved in printing, packaging, publishing. Have been doing it not quite as long as Frank has, but I've been doing it for many decades. So the real issue is that the rules of the game are changing, right? Frank talked a little bit about that before. He said, you know, the longer runs are starting to get shorter, and the digital technology is really becoming much more efficient in producing a lot of the types of products that are out there for print today. But there's other things that are changing as well, and that are driving and that feed off of this new technology. So you basically have a situation where the technology is getting better and it's driving new requirements, and the requirements are changing, and they're driving new technology. And this is going to continue to escalate.
Sir David, excuse me. Can you speak slow, please? You speak too fast.
Sorry. Okay.
Hey, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thanks.
So things are changing. And as I said, the technology is getting faster and newer, but the markets are changing. How people buy things, how people look at print is also changing. So the way people buy print and packaging are actually creating new demand for new technologies. And as a result, new technologies are getting developed. But on the same time, as the new technologies get developed, they're creating new requirements and new demands in terms of the way people look at these things. So you've got new ways to buy. You've got new ways to deal with clients, to actually engage with clients. When I got involved in printing back in the 1970s, as a salesperson, you would go to a client and you would bring them donuts, or you'd sit down over a lunch with a martini and you would talk about buying print. That's not the way people buy print anymore. They buy print online like they buy everything else online. They want to be able to get the print. It's they're just basically buying something else. They need to be able to buy it and then move on to something else. In today's environment, everybody's running, or companies are running in what we call leaner, right? So there's less people to do the work, so they need to do it and move on. And that's so the way you engage with your clients is changing as well. Additionally, what you need to do is you need to maximize the value of your equipment. So yes, the digital technology is very efficient, and it allows you to do things that you just couldn't do with offset and flexo. But in order to get the real value out of that printing equipment, you need to understand that you have to begin to automate your production and your business systems. And we'll talk a little bit about that. All of these changes, as I said before, are really changing because of e-business. People are doing things online, whether it's mobile or they're doing it on a browser. They're doing things online. It's a challenge, but it's actually a good thing, because what it does is it actually creates a better link. It facilitates the relationship between the buyer and the seller. Yes, it's different, but this technology allows it to become much more easier to do business, or quicker to do business, if you will. As a result, as I said before, it actually allows you also to coordinate production processes. You know, when printers and print service providers used to think about their business, that's all they did. They thought about their business. The reality is that today you have to think about your client's business as well. And they have production processes, or they have digital systems, and their digital systems and your digital systems need to start to coordinate. They need to start to work together. That's very important. And that's what's going to happen as you move forward. And it's going to create a whole new standard of structure for business. So as we look at it, the cloud, right, the internet, but what's going on, more importantly, the cloud is really becoming the new norm. So all of this increases the demand for process connectivity, not just within your shop or within your printing plant, but also within your, what we call supply chain. And the supply chain is your customers, their customers, your suppliers, their suppliers, and all of you begin to work together. That's a supply chain. And increasingly, that all has to become much more fluid, much more connected. And that's where it's going. That's where things are moving. And there are a lot of ways that things like this are happening. Things like standards. You know, I'm the chairman of the Ghent Work Group. We've been developing standards for almost 20 years in anticipation of a lot of these changes, because these changes are significant. And we knew that they would require some level of standardization to make it happen. So we need to share the information, but we need to share it within standards. We also need to educate people, by the way, and that's because since things are changing, people need to know and learn how to do the business in the new environment, in the new world. And that's beginning to happen as well. And actually, even in the Ghent Work Group, we're starting to create more educational outreach programs. We're doing it in Latin America. We're doing it in China and Asia. We're doing it in Europe and of course in the US. So we're trying to get the message out and get the education out in a standardized way so that everybody begins to do business in this new way and facilitate the exchange of information. This is really a visual diagram of what the new communication and world looks like as you start to do business. I'm not going to describe it all because that in itself could take me 3 hours. But basically, most of you are very familiar with the production line at the bottom, that bottom bar, which is really the historic way of doing business. But as we started to move into digital, and actually around the 2000s in that area, when we started looking at things like computer to plate, etc., we started realizing we need to be able to develop a way to control that bottom line process. So we began to develop process management layers. And on top of that, we just started to develop business and information layers. So you've heard of business MIS systems, ERP systems, customer relation management systems. All of these systems now start to communicate and build on each other and communicate to create a much more connected and productive environment and business. And then on top of that, now we have the external interface where we now start to communicate. Our systems start to communicate with our customer systems. Our systems start to communicate with our partners and supplier systems, and they all start to work together. And that's increasingly the way things will be done. They're already starting, but this is the way they will be done. This is how everybody will be doing business in the future. Additionally, and Frank talked about this a little bit as he started talking about individual products, but really there are two different types of print suppliers or print service models, if you will. One of them is printed products. So printed products would be predefined products, a magazine, a catalog, maybe business cards, letterheads, even newspapers, although not as much. Those are printed products. And then we have what I'm calling printed services. And printed services are customized ways to use printing technology to develop an end product. And it uses the big differentiator between the printed products and the printed services is that the printed services use variable production techniques, which means that it's not always the same. It's not like a cookie cutter. We always make catalogs the same way. If you think about signs and displays are very different. I mean, it's going to be different to make a sign that wraps around a building or a car than it is to just make a sign that's going to sit on a table like a shelf talker. So all of these variable techniques create a whole new way of looking at print and actually create very much a new and support the new type of print that Frank was talking about earlier. Those two different types of printed models actually are being supported by new types of digital technologies and digital print and printing equipment. There's hybrid technology, where we're actually taking multiple types of printing technologies or finishing technologies or embellishment technologies, and we're putting them together in one unit to manufacture certain types of printed products. Now, on the other hand, we have something called bespoke. And bespoke is really just another word for custom. And that's where printing actually becomes part of another process. So it doesn't just stand on its own. It's not like a printing company and printing in a printing company. This is where print actually becomes an integral part of a manufacturing or marketing process. This is where print is actually in a manufacturing line. So if you can imagine, you have a packaging line where somebody is making a beer or cereal boxes, and it used to be that they would print a lot of this in advance. Now they're actually printing it as part of the manufacturing line. So it's printing, it's filling it, the package, it's printing the package, and it moves on from there. So it's becoming a part of that process. It's also becoming part of marketing processes. That's really when we start to talk about multi-channel marketing, where we're actually leveraging print and digital internet and email technologies and social media technologies, but we're putting them all together. That's another way that it's custom, and it's custom designed to be able to produce this type of promotional and increase the amount of print that's actually being put out. So we have all of this new technology, and we have all of these new requirements. How do we manage it all? How do we actually connect all of these disparate types of things? How do I make sure that when I am a printer and I've got an offset press, or I've got digital presses, or I've got wide format or flatbed presses and different kinds of finishing and digital technologies to go out to the internet, how do I manage all of this? And that's really the key to productivity and to profitability going forward. And it's really based on something I call process modularity. Basically, it's a matter of you need to connect all of this together, but you need to understand that each process will be a module, will stand on its own, yet still work together in this overall environment. And it has to do that in order for it all to work. Because if you don't have process modularity and connect all of these things, right? So you have to have this process integration plus the modularity. If you don't have that, then you wind up creating what we call process silos. And process silos are very expensive and inefficient ways to do things, which means that one type of job comes in, a process silo, if you think about it, one kind of job comes in and you process it a certain way. Another kind of job comes in and you process it another way. And you keep throwing people at developing different ways and moving this work through these processes. That is a very inefficient way to do things. You need to be able to integrate it so when the work comes in, it actually flows through pipes. And this is, so when you have these individual silos, and people start to think about automating a specific operation, that's really called an island of automation. And an island of automation is okay because it solves maybe a little problem, but you need to look at it in a much broader way. You need to look at it in what I would call, and again, I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, a little bit of a hippie, but you need to look at it in a holistic way. The whole process, which means everything from the customer into the plant, through the plant, back out of the plant to the customer again. And you need to look at your workflows in that way. And if you do that, you'll be able to begin to deal with a much more automated way of doing business, a much more profitable way of doing business. And more importantly, you'll be able to address a lot of the new requirements that are coming, the new technologies that are coming, and the new market demands that are coming. At the end of the day, what print service providers are doing is they're capturing, segregating, and managing data. That's what you're doing. That's your new business model. And you have production data files like the PDF, which you're very much used to. You have instruction files, whether it's a JDF or an XML or a JSON or any number of other digital formats. Those are what create the instructions in the production data files. And the production instruction files, think of it as a job order, come together, right? Somebody gives you a file, they give you an order. Those two types of data come together. Then you have business data. Well, how much are they, when do they want it? How much are they, is it going to be, are we going to get paid for it, et cetera? That is another piece of production data or another piece of data, if you will. Those are those levels I showed you before. All of those things work together. And then if you have a variable data job where you have personalization, well, then variable data is another data stream. So you could have 4 data streams. Usually you'll only have 3, but you couldn't in essence have 4. And you need to be able to understand how to manage those and develop systems to be able to support that. Some of the standards that you will hear about, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but these are what they are. It's PDFX, a lot of the work that the Ghent Work Group is doing. And if you're not familiar with the Ghent Work Group, I know there are groups in Latin America that are promoting a lot of it now, but it's just gwg.org. And go there. There's good information there. And a lot of it, by the way, has been translated. So you should be able to find some great information there. But there's XML, JDF, and JMF. And then there are what they call APIs, application programming interfaces, where actually different pieces of that program and processes can actually begin to share information. And then, of course, for color, you have things like G7 and color management. So if you are a print service provider, where do you start? Because I threw a lot at you. How do you begin to even look at it? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to look at what your new process will look like. And basically you have customer input, and your customers are going to start giving you different types of input. So you need to be able to normalize that. You need to be able to map the information that they're giving you to the requirements of your internal processes. And the good news is, once you've done that mapping, and you could do that, by the way, you can do that through portals, web to print kinds of solutions. But in some cases, your clients are going to give you, they don't want to go to a portal to do business. They want to actually just send you stuff electronically or ask you to go pick it up out of their system electronically. So you need to normalize it. And then you go through the automation of the checking and preparing, et cetera. So basically, that's what the high level of your internal processes will look like. This looks like a video game, but really what it is it's actually an automation system that this is just a sample of something I put together for a customer that actually automated their entire production from when the customer came in and the job came in through the plant, through pre-press, and there's some variable data, sending out proofs, going to the presses, developing impositions, etc. And the interesting thing is that all of these things can work with all of the products that you currently use, whether it's digital products or even some of the offset products, depending on what kind of front end you have to it. Those can be connected, and they're all connected either with APIs or XML. And this is I talked about a pipeline before. This is what an automated pipeline looks like, and it's rule-based. So what it does is it takes the intelligence that a lot of your current workers, your current production people have, it takes that intelligence and it puts it into the decisions within this framework. Now, that doesn't mean you don't need people, because you absolutely still need people. When we start looking at automating things, and remember before I talked about printed products versus printed services? Well, if we're dealing with printed products, yeah, you could probably automate in many cases even 100% of the plant. But mostly, if you're dealing with printed services, maybe you'll automate 80%, 70%, 80% of the plant. But if you can do that, all of that additional profit goes to the bottom line. And those things that you can automate require the real skills. And remember, Frank said before, where are we going to get these skilled operators? So if you're going to have less skilled operators, you need to allow them to do the work that makes their value higher for you and automate the rest. Ultimately, the next step is what we call Industry 4.0, or the digital factory. And that's where we even go beyond just what I had showed you with that map, and the machines actually start talking to each other and to your customers. And it all happens through the cloud. And by the way, this is not futuristic. This is happening today. This can actually be developed today, and Baldwin happens to have a system that can do this. So this is where this is really where the future is. You can't just jump right to here because you'll probably trip and fall, but you can do it in stages. Now, for those of you who are nervous because you think, "Oh my God, it's all happening too fast for me, and I'm not there yet." This was a study that was done actually in 2019, right before the pandemic. It hasn't changed that much. It's changed a little bit. But basically what this shows is that the vast majority of print service providers are at best doing islands of automation. They're automating little processes. That's like that 25%, the orange one, right? But a significant amount are still doing things manually. In this case, almost 18%, almost 20%, 43%, some automation, some manual, and 2% are doing it completely automated. And that's why I say you're only going to get a full automation for certain kinds of very defined products. So there's plenty of room for growth, and you're not alone. But it's something that you need to begin to start doing. Now, being able to adopt this means you have to adapt to it, and your people need to adapt to it. When I go in and I work with a company, whether I work with a print service provider or a consumer product company, technology is easy, because technology, you buy technology, but people, I say people are hard. Technology is easy, people are hard. What does that mean? Look, people don't like change. They're scared of change. But that needs to be a big part of what you do to be able to support the kinds of growth and the kinds of change that are going to be coming at you. You can't control it. It's coming whether you want it to or not. The question is, how fast can you adapt to it and embrace it? Because it's ultimately going to give you that competitive edge. And if you can't do it yourself, don't be afraid to look for expert help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. David.
Muito obrigado, Sr. David. Foi uma excelente apresentação. Agora nós temos uma pergunta do...
He is a director of Nova Brasileira Print Servers.
Yep.
And the question is, hold a second. Okay. As most of the business owners that are watching us at the moment have their business based in offset, and with limited research for investment and new machinery. Due to our current economy situation, what do you suggest for that small companies to keep up with new technology?
That's a great question. The changes are happening no matter how big your business is. So the first thing you have to do is you have to identify. First of all, the first thing you have to do is, as an owner, you have to understand that this is something you need to do, and that's the first thing. As I said before, a big part of this is about changing the mindset. It's about trying to ensure that people understand this needs to be done. The next thing you need to do is find a champion inside your building, inside your facility, somebody who's going to be able to, who understands it and who's interested and excited to be able to take on some of these challenges. And once you do that, the next thing you do is, if you depending on whether you have the internal skills to do it on your own, or if you don't, you can bring somebody in to help. There are people out there who can actually help you do this. Now, when I say that, very important, you don't just let them come in, do it, and say goodbye, because ultimately you are the one who has to live with this when it's all done. So what you have to do is find somebody who's willing to work with your internal staff, not just to implement some of this, but to educate them so that they can then carry it on going forward.
Thank you very much. We have another one. It's from André Sobrinho. He's a president of the Print Industry Syndicate. Okay. His question is, consider the future vision you are presenting and the kind of print business we have here. What would be the ideal survival roadmap to small companies?
So the roadmap itself for a small company is, first and foremost, you need to look internally to see that you are, that you're prepared to begin to develop a more digitally forward relationship and production environment. So first and foremost, you want to make sure that your internal production stream is automated as much as you can, and it doesn't have to be complete. You do it in stages. You take it in small steps. Once you've done that, and probably at the same time, in parallel, you also want to look at how do you bring your clients and connect them. Remember before I said that the clients, that your business and their business need to be connected. It's not just connected through the telephone. It's not through donuts and coffee and a drink. It's connected through data. And you need to be able to then begin to work with them. And you can find a client, you pick a client, usually one that you're very comfortable with. They're comfortable with you. It's a good, solid relationship. And you work with them to begin to develop that integration, that data integration between their business and your business. And then instead of them sending you an email and a file and then somebody picking it up and touching it and fixing it and working with it, you can begin to streamline and automate that process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zwang. It's a pleasure. So very, very happy about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I pass the floor to our president, Eduardo Eugenio, for a special honor. President, the floor is yours. The moment couldn't be better for me to say a few words about the biggest entrepreneurs in the printing industry in Brazil. Carlos Jorge, he's a journalist, writer, lawyer. He was born in 1969, with his father, Dr. Jain, with the printing that was founded in 1962, almost, it was a long time ago. Nowadays, he's running the company with his son. In 1986, he started working with the printing industry with our country in Brazil, working with class units. Now he's the president of the municipality of Rio de Janeiro, UCGRAF. He was the vice president of ABIGRAF and works with ABIGRAF in the state of Rio de Janeiro. And for our happiness, he started working in Firjan. Today, he has an important role of the secretary director, and it's the most active members of our board. He's also a secretary director of the Center of Rio de Janeiro and vice president of the SEBRAE committee in Rio. For the national industry, in almost 40 years in the sector, Danilo de Jorge also became a visionary and innovator. Only to say a few examples, at the end of the 90s, when the digital printing was starting, he created the book factory in Latin America, changing the market. He's also had this Senai here in Maracanã, the most modern school in the whole Latin America. His protagonists also include the creation of the Printing Excellency Prize in 2004 that create excellency standards for the printing industry in Brazil and in Rio de Janeiro. My friend, your life would be a great book. Not, it would be the whole collective. And as we have to move on, I would like to thank you for your work and everything that you did in the printing industry in Brazil and also in the state of Rio de Janeiro, because your dedication might be compared to a true honor. I would like to deliver in the name of Firjan a plate to recognize your dedication and contribution for the development of the Brazilian printing industry. And right now, I would like to say that it's not the end of my words. We have the honor to inform that we are baptizing in your name the unit Senai SESI, where is our printing school at the neighborhood of Maracanã. Now it's called Complexo Firjan Senai Sérgio Carlos de Jorge Sobrinho. As you can see that it's been installed in the unit. Now here you can see the sign. And I pass the floor back to Carla to continue with the event. Thank you, President. Continue with our event. We are going to the national panel that is going to be moderated by Ivo Dafon. Dafon is the Vice President of the printing industry of the municipality of Rio de Janeiro and Associate Director. Dafon, the floor is yours. Thank you, Carla. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to be part of this event, to have this, our friend Carlos de Jorge. It's a special day for the Brazilian printing industry. Congratulations, Carlos, you deserved. So let's continue the work. This panel, it's with entrepreneurs in the printing industry, the national printing industry, that will determine the impact of this transformation about the Brazilian printing industry, considering this daily live. In this panel, each one will have 10 minutes to talk about their opinions and continue the exhibition of the four presenters. We will start with the questions that are coming from the associates in the printing industry. I would like to present our guests, starting with our friend Sidney Anversa, president of the Brazilian Printing Association, ABIGRAF, and executive director of Congraf Embalagens in São Paulo. Sidney is one of the icons of our printing industry. Sidney, you have 10 minutes. The floor is yours. Thank you, Daflon. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be able to sometimes be able to talk about what I lived in my profession. I don't have any presentation, only my memory. And as I have memory, I have the history of the Brazilian printing industry, because I started the company with 24 years old in 1972. I started Congraf and I started this work. But before talking about this, I would like to say that I'm here representing 17,000 grafs in Brazil with almost 200,000 employees. It's something big. Sometimes I'm going to sleep and I think about that and I terrify. It's not easy, especially in a situation in a country that it has a lot of crisis. But anyway, in 1972, I started my printing, and I started, and today I have 73 years old and I'm still working. And today who is running the graphics are my kids, one with 51 and the other with 42. And they are the one that as they were born and they was raised there, they do this well.
Well, after Mr. Romano and Mr. David speak, it's really difficult to have something new to bring here, but I can make everything that was said is brought to the Brazilian reality with all the difficulties and things that we have here. Until the 90s, we had nothing. We had boards with font 7. We would retouch boards and print plates with something that I don't remember the name, but would get on fire. So, and we made use of the plates with glass balls. If you are a little bit older, you remember that. So we were living and facing all these situations, and in fact, they were sometimes harmful. In the 90s, everybody bought new equipment. We had wonderful printing houses, and they were as good as the foreign printing houses, the American ones and the European ones. All that was very good. It was the way we could deal with the competence and with what President Collor open to us, because he said, you are incompetent, our cars are bad, and so on. And that's when we started working on that, working strongly and more strongly, and our competition was increasing, and it's always been a good business, and we've always worked well with that. But lately, right before the COVID crisis, we were facing a moment in which printing personnel were starting to lose in space, and didn't know in fact if this space lost was due to the economical crisis, the national economic crisis, the president fights because one president comes, the other goes, and so on, and we couldn't deal with all the reforms, and things were getting worse, but people in the area didn't know if everything was getting worse due to the difficult situations or because digital was taking all the space without us realizing that. Digital was spreading on everything and we couldn't even realize, and when we saw that, so a lot of industries were closed as any other markets were also closed. Everything changed. The world has changed. When we talk about selling today, and I've always been a good seller, that's why I had a printing house. But today nobody comes to me and sits here to discuss with me because nobody's with me anymore to have lunch and solve the company's problem. Everything is done via mails and files that come and go to our production line, and they leave here ready due to the demand of the client who requests the delivery. We are just part of the process. We are people providing services without direct participation. Everything is electronic communication. And what we feel, I don't know if I still have time, please control that to me. Okay, Carla. Yes, Mr. Sidney, you can speak. So today we follow the printers live, and the magazines and newspapers were disappearing, and advertising that we had before, reports, nothing else is done today. So I followed the pathway of packaging, and I was lucky because packages are being produced. But today we also created a department for a development department. We chose a segment that is the premium segment. We have people prepared and we teach. We are teaching all of them. Basically, everything I learned was with the help of the printers and the manufacturers. The manufacturers took me to Europe, to Japan, China, all over the world. And I could see the printing industry, how it works. And therefore, I could always bring the news and everything that has to be done. Mr. Dave also mentioned that we need to mount a company in a complete way with links and so on, but it's not exactly this way. We have a lot of difficulties in purchasing. Our money doesn't is not that worthy. We need to multiply by 5 or 6 times everything we buy plus taxes that we pay, so everything is quite complicated. But for example, for us to have such a line like this, we need huge capital, and today I think it wouldn't be that good to invest in the printing industry. It would be better to invest in other things. But anyways, we are participating in the printing industry with packaging digitally. So today we have digital receiving material, controlling production, opening the file with the images and the modeling of all the packs and everything that is needed. And it manages all the printing area, and then we have diagrammation of the plates all digitally. We put everything in machines, and lately we are having something that will be delivered on the next 5, a machine for the quality control. And there is a yellow or red light that tells if everything is okay or not, if the red light is on. So we work with a 20,000 paper sheets per hour, so digital is quite important. So we need to repeat in the paper the exact point that we had in the file the client sent. This is something wonderful. This is something for us to do as a work of art in a very high speed and with a complete control of production. Also digitally, and with the digital printing and receiving and shipping. So digital to us is quite important. But to print 350,000 pieces of papers, we need speed. We need a machine with a cheaper paint without the being related only to the manufacturer, because today it doesn't matter if you have to pay the machine and the clock and the paint and everything we have to paint. If digital printing starts this way, it gets so complicated that even the manufacturer need to open stores, otherwise there will be no conditions to work. So I think the printer, the businessmen, they need to become, keep up being businessmen. And the manufacturers of machines and paint, they need to keep up this work so that we are free to start our own companies the way we need to, even if it's a small machine, but a digital one, because the digital world is there to stay and it will be everything. So in 7 years, I'll be 80 years old. I need to retire. I know that, but I hope I will be good till then. And I want to see my children doing everything digitally, based on the images that move and sending to clients. Everything with visualization and animation, and they can see the production and so on, because we do everything digitally, but printing needs offset because it gives more, it deals with the need of being more productive, because today competition is quite strong and we need to accept that we need to make less money with more work. These are things to take into account. So this adaptation that we had of having the equipment and learning how it works, because we only had a cartridge and that's how we worked. The Osazol plate was there one day and we celebrated in the company because everything was so hard work. And from that on, we have managed, in fact, everything that we have abroad here, even if our money is not that valued. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now I will invite Cristhine Samorini, who is the head of the Industry Confederation in the state of Espírito Santo and of the Graphic Industry Unit in Espírito Santo, and commercial manager of Grafitusa, a company that is 100 years old. She is an innovator with a strong view on the future. Cristhine, 10 minutes, please. Thank you, Daflon. It's a pleasure to meet you here in such a well-organized event by Firjan and Graphic. First of all, I would like to greet Eduardo Eugenio, my partner today that is facing all the challenges along with me in managing the federation. I share a lot of discussions with him, and I would like to greet the knowledge of Jorge for all his history and for the space that we have, because it's in our memories, all the work and dedication, and this is what we do. Carla, can you hear me well? Just for me to check everything. Cristhine, just one point. I forgot to congratulate Carlos Jorge, a person that I admire a lot. Carlos, congratulations for the acknowledgement, and I hope here in São Paulo we can name something on your behalf. So thank you. Okay, so I would like to greet you, Mr. Sidney, because you are the real history of the graphic industry in Brazil, with a lot of history, and we are 100 years old, but difficulties are the ones that we face in our daily lives. So I would like to greet Valter briefly, that is the director of Firjan, Alexis Santos, financial manager of ENS Printing House, Mr. French Romano, I don't know if he's still here, Mr. David Zwang, who is an expert, and Carla, and I would like to greet you also, and my dear friend Daflon, the person that is in the printing industry since he was 16 years old. So before talking about my industry specifically, in David's presentation, that is what he shows today, this is what we've been discussing for a long time, the importance of connectivity that has speeded up mainly due to the demand of digital transformation. And it's important for us here to separate digital transformation and digital printing. We have two different digital steps. So digital transformation is necessarily a reality in the printing industry, necessarily, I mean, for every industry today. We all have, if we don't have any level of digital transformation, whether it's an online event or receiving files, but if you don't have connectivity, it's impossible to deal with the reality today, no matter the size of your industry. I don't know if Mr. David is receiving the translation. I guess not anymore. So the reality of printing houses in Brazil is completely different from Brazil, but Sidney mentions that very well. With all the difficulties that we have in Brazil, everything is more costly. It's all true because we debate that a lot. We discuss competition and the Brazil cost along with everything. It is much more of being in the delay in the printing market, and I'm not talking about technological equipment, especially printing. 1 year ago, I was in Sidney's printing industry. He was with a top of the line offset printing, but this is very costly. So for us to reach that, we need to have a market allowing us to do that, and it's more and more difficult to have this market. Now bringing it to our reality, because this is an industry that faced all these transformation phases, like the beginning of Catu and so on, and then having polychromy inserted, and today we have equipment for that in 8 colors. Our equipment checks page per page and all that, but we had to learn that these are essential tools today, and it's not because the client has to pay for that. The view was changing. The graphic industry has difficulties in
You said that you are talking about 8 colors, about the control. What I think, just to sum up, we entrepreneur come from a place that we have to value what we have in production. I see this as a strong part of my father that is still working. I also in this industry because I have him in the company. And he said, you have to go there, you have to feel it, but we have this difficulty in the printing market as a whole to understand these technological changes and these behavioral changes to bring this to our reality, more capability. And you see a company, I will use Sidney's company as we hear as an example, getting concerned with the development and research sector and conducting these types of training. And what I see today, bringing to my reality, it's a company that we have this, try to see this diversity, but today we try to get more and more to packaging in medium-sized markets, a market that already have this big competition. Those who think that it's going to happen, especially what happened 15 years ago, all the companies migrated to this printing. So we have this printing boom in Brazil that today it's something that makes it harder for the industry. Today we live with a reality of everything thinking that they are in the same level by this marketing opening. So it was important to have new investments, but today is a reality that it harms our own sector. But our change to a specific packaging sector without working with what we already have is our biggest challenge. For us to be able to have to fulfill our demands that are connected to the commercial, aiming the only printing market in paper that I'm saying, because we have a printing market that is not being explored. I've seen this in Europe, this plastic printing and offset machinery, and unfortunately through the lack of consumption that Brazil have, we cannot forget that although we have this difficulty as an economy, and this will be in the way of all the projects and plans that we have. And maybe not only I'm not speaking just for myself, but I'm speaking for the whole printing market. But what happens today, this change that everybody's aiming in a different sector, this will get to a level of difficulty that every printing company will think that they can work with packaging. And it is a concern that I have, because for you to have only the technology, I think that you're inserting with a level of digitalization and not understanding all the information that David passed to us, that it's something that is extremely essential for a long time, but for us here in Brazil, it's a little bit different through the difficulties that we have. It might have, maybe in a short time, these companies will feel these difficulties. But we have the mission to do this strategic changing. It is not that easy. We were part of this innovation for us to get an internal solution to better talk to the clients. It's not only receiving files and printing. You see the investments that we have with Sidney to have development departments for you to be able to get all the requirements. Today, no client wants to sit down with the vendors. They just want to send the solicitation and with the numbers, with the best solution, with this that will be a quest for everybody. And the market will be harder, and because you need to have integrated solution, way more integrated solutions than you had before. So this goes to the new scenery. For us is not easy for being an innovative company, but we have a small market. We are inserted in the state of Espírito Santo in a small market, although that São Paulo has this dispute, but this competition, but our consumption in this inside the state is small, so we have to have this different market inside the states to try to increase the production volume. So we know that for us to have offset equipment, we need to have volume to compensate. Otherwise, you need to have a better choice of this digital printing equipment. That nowadays you can see that the investments of manufacturers, in digital manufacturers, are prepared to work with this market. So we are in this transition moment, not leaving behind what we already been working with, and searching for this new path that was chosen in a more qualified way to walk past this packaging market. I try to talk a little bit about markets. I try to talk a little bit about the 100 years industry. I said that Flom, I got the worst part of the printing industry, a digital transformation, 100 years company, and a woman. So everything at the same time. So it's not a easy challenge. No, but great, 10 minutes, excellent. Thank you, Cristhine. Now I will talk with Alex Santos from ANS, from the state of Rio Grande do Sul. Alex had a presentation in the last Vendor Crash in 2017, where he was amazing. We still talk about the presentation till today. And Alex, as I know, he's always concerned with this artificial intelligence. So Alex, you have 10 minutes to pass all the information that you have. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the invitation. For our company, it's very important to share this knowledge and to also be able to have David Zwang and Frank Romano here so we can learn more and more in this event. First, I would like to congratulate our friend George for this deserved space for this effort for many years in this printing industry. For us, we know how hard it is in our sector, but we know why we are here today in this meeting. We are here because we have hope. We hope to have better days, and only with the information that we received here and that are coming from the outside, and we're gonna be able to see the trends, we're gonna be able to improve ourselves as a company. For us, it's a pleasure to be here in this event with you. And talking a little bit about our history, about our changes. All of us had a lot of changes in the last few years, but in this last months, it was everything was hard for all of us. So we know that in each challenge, if you do not have the technology, the information, the artificial intelligence, you cannot compete in this market. What happens is that a few years ago you talk about the 4.0 industry. Today we talk more about that. I believe that most companies, they already are 4.0 companies. They already have this plug technology. As Fran said, the machinery reading the system, knowing if the paper is good or not, doing the entire process, automated process. But the 4.0 industry is not enough for our sector. We need to know, we need to get all the return information of this 4.0 industry. So with all that, we have a lot of informations to deal with. So I will talk a little bit how our company behaves with these informations, how we deal with everything, and after that I will show a few things that we did in this digital information, artificial intelligence, and how we were able to have this, how we were able to be different in the south part of Brazil. First, we have to understand how we treat our information, how they get to us. Because we search for information from all over the market. We go to the events, tech tours, and all types of presentations, researches, everything we get together. And we always had our meetings with the board, with the directors, and we understand that together we think, together we are stronger. We have a capability to manage and understand these informations, and this is one of the most important points of our companies, because we know that many heads thinks better, and this union will make us different. So after being brought together with this information, what did we do? So instead of focusing in everything that the other companies are doing in the market, we ask ourselves where they are not working, what they are not doing, what they are leaving aside. So what are the gaps in the market? What do you have that it's new for us to try to get a new product, a new way to produce? And with this, we think about these innovative solutions and processes, and for us to have this relationship with the client always work as that. Everything that the market show us, we see and say, oh, look how they are dealing with the clients, though they have this omni-channel tool that groups all the informations on top of in the same platform, and this makes it easier for us to talk with the client. You know how he's behaving in this social network, how he's receiving the information, what were the last events that this client had with your company. So we are still transforming ourselves, and this is already part of our market, but in a speed, in a different speed. I believe that the pandemic anticipated a lot of trends that were in this world movement for all of us. I want to share my point of view about these transformations that would generate this global phenomenon. First, this impact of these restrictions, this that were said a few times, that they generate this client relationships. And the second, the impact of this new technology in the production environment. The impact of these technologies when we negotiate with the client. At ANS, we work for more than 15 years in the market. So we have these clients in different ways in these last 15 years. In the beginning of times, we understood that this relation was to form a team to teach the client to finalize his files in a better way. After some time, we looked for a team that could teach the clients how to do an online order. So nowadays, we finally understood that this is not a relationship with the client, that the technical part makes a difference, and we need to gather a team that it's focused in the client. I'm talking a little bit about the service, that this customer service that is going to give us this idea. So we all need to focus in this service. This is our main tool, and this is almost free. We only have to do our work. And in this idea of this technological impact in this customer service, this is an art. We need to be able to have people that can do that. But I say that all of us, we have our customer service. We are qualified. We deliver in the best time. But when the subject is the excellency, few of us are able to do so. If I ask you how many clients do you have in a day, you would think, I think I have this number. But do you think that deliver your service? Do you are able to compete with this personalized, the bespoke and personalized service? And I'm pretty sure that your answer, you know that you can improve a little bit, and you can get better. And this is the difference. This is one of the tips that I gave in my 10 minutes.
Then we have the impact of technology in the production. Since the beginning of the pandemics, we needed to reinvent ourselves, as we invented in many other global crisis moments. But from this movement of focusing on the client, we understood how to use technology. And as I mentioned, we were already working as a 4.0 industry for some time. All our equipment, like Frank and David mentioned, they all report data for us to assess the production and the technical skills of the operators and raw material, but we've never used that to give one step ahead, to break this barrier and give that to the client. So we could do that, and it brought a lot of advantages to us. We learned how to do the upsell by analyzing metadata of clients, of what they bought and what they are buying and what they are offering, for us to offer more and manage the inventory virtually. So we know the consumptions of almost all our clients over time, and we made use of that. And before finishing their stock, we offer something different with some advantage, so that they don't go to the competition. So we need to make good use of this information to have this differential. And another interesting thing in this sense, in terms of artificial intelligence, is that all of us here work with planning and production control. So in the company, we created the planning and control of people, of production and people. So we gamified our production. The system chooses who is the operator to perform the task based on the avatar, their avatar. And it's very interesting. It's based on Lego machine. They create the intelligence and say who are the workers free for that. And so you decrease your spare time and costs, and it's more effective. Than with ideas like this and executing that, many times you need a lot of effort, a lot of energy, but with artificial intelligence, we have many other points that small industries can do, like managing a marketing campaign, that those with the most artificial intelligence is Google, but we need to know how to use that, put managers to think and know how to do without wasting on money. This is the dream of most of the companies, but we need to plant the seeds so that we can do that. So I prepared here, I don't know about my time, but I prepared 3 short videos. Well, your time is over. Well, I would like 3 more minutes to show 3 short videos showing how artificial intelligence work with testing and sales. I would like to share 3 minutes if it's possible. Can it be 2 minutes? Okay, let's see. I forget one of the videos. So just a second here. So can you see my screen? Can I share? Is it being shared? So this video is 1 minute 47. I'll try to reduce it a little. I'll forward a little bit here, okay? I'm skipping some parts so that I can reach my time, okay? So I stopped it here, just showing the metadata data of the client. This is another way, because we can send the samples to the client. Let me turn on the sound here. This is increased reality, how the client sees the box and how you can offer the sample with the digital sample, not only with the printing one or sending something to the client. And now let me see it here. This one here is that our printing house produces many kinds of material. This one is for decoration. It's quite interesting as well. So I had to forward a little bit because there was a lot of information, but if you need to know more, you can talk to me offline. You have my contacts. I would like to thank a lot for the invitation and congratulate Firjan, Graph and ABIGRAF for supporting us in searching for knowledge. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex. Very nice. Now our guest is Valter Zanacoli, director of Firjan and head of the Union of Printing Industries in Petrópolis and legal assistance of Voice Printing House. Just an information for us to know. Vozes Printing House that is in Petrópolis in the countryside has celebrated last March 120 years. 20 years. Congratulations to all the team of Vozes Printing House, a Brazilian printing house celebrating 120 years. And now you have 10 minutes to present your ideas and your considerations. Valter, please. And please don't disturb me because I don't have that much hair already, okay? So thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I would like to greet our president, Dr. Eduardo Eugenio, and thank for the invitation to participate in this event and congratulate our dear Carlos Jorge. Congratulations on the homage. It's quite well deserved. I would like to greet the participants, Alex. Thank you for the invitation to be in your printing house during that national mission that we had with the Industry Federation in Rio, and we visit your printing house, and it was wonderful. You are really the best. I generally tell my people here that if you want to learn from printing industry, just go there. And I would like to greet Sidney and Cristhine. And well, that's it, Daflon. Vozes has celebrated 120 years. And this is very much in this sense that I think Cristhine will also have that in her printing house because it's also a 100-year company. Because we have a lot of to say about what Professor David mentioned, that he is facing these cultural changes in a 100-year company. Because just for you to have an idea, our target of employees here is about 25 years. So it's a great challenge to implement these cultural changes. And it's a challenge that we have every day, we face every day at Vozes, and it goes a lot in line with what Professor David mentioned of what we call here the horizontal management, that is having the decision-making process in every simple measure of the company. So this is a great challenge to have this cultural change in the company so that we are in fact following these digital challenges. But I would like to go beyond that. I would like to go beyond what our colleagues talked before me, because I would like to talk about what we did regarding our sales work of reaching the client. And it goes a lot in line with what Alex mentioned, because we need excellent an excellent way of dealing with the client and knowing their profile. All this digital modeling in sales of presenting and offering your printing services, everything was already happening. And we've discussed a lot that in BDF and in Vozes, we are working a lot in this digital transformation in the way we deal with clients. But with the pandemic, we speeded this process up. So our moment of selling and presenting the graph work in the social fairs and online work, we had a lot of investment, mainly in training personnel, so that we could reach the best possible treatment to our client, as Alex mentioned, because today we work with a lot of network of clients every day, but what in fact is dealing with clients with excellence. So having this work in the digital environment, and we had a lot of work on that with investments and training people so that we could have a fast analysis work when we receive a new individual, and when we so that we can have a fast budget with a lot of excellence in dealing with the client in an online and digital way. Another work that we did and we are doing is digital advertising. So we searched on the market, as Professor David mentioned, we searched on the market for people with the expertise in marketing and digital marketing and publicity, so that we could improve the presentation and how to reach the client in a satisfactory way via these digital channels. And there was all this transformation, so we needed a lot of structure in this sense to deal with digital marketing and publicity.
And in this theme that you have to do with to guide your work and to improve your printing service, we realized the return of an important part of this business that it was already being worked through many years, is not new, but it came back with a strength for you to search, for you to try to understand your client profile in a way that is more regional, that it's the commercial representative, but not only for you to get your client's wallet, for you to have your list of clients, but you should try to have a connection, a direct connection with these partners, so you be able to understand the profile of the service that you're going to offer in that region. So I'll go back to that thing that Alex was talking about. That is what we are doing. It's what we are creating here. That it's to try to get better in our results with the new models that we have, everything that you offer with your printing services, all the adaptation of the client data throughout the digital marketing, the publicity, the digital publicity, and the selling partners, everything you gather all this data in a system, in an intelligent system and a strategical system that you're going to do the data analysis that Alex called artificial intelligence, where the system can give us a client profile and also a service profile and everything that is searched in each and every region, because we understand that inside our presentation, inside our services, inside our marketing and our publicity, doesn't matter for you to start offering every and each services. It's one of you're wasting energy to offer everything that you have in a random way. This system that we are thinking to create, we are trying to develop, it's going to help you how to deal with information and intelligence. We believe that you have to try to be more aggressive when offering your printing services, and you have to guide your offering. So it's a waste of time for me to get this effort offering the surface, this brochure, for example. In the sampling services, if you keep offering this brochure for the clients that work with different things, so you have this intelligent system. After you have all this data adaptation, you have to understand the client profile, so you can work with marketing and offering this printing services in a more guided way. And then I might say something that it's very important. We have to work with the unions, we have to work with the groups, because with Senai here in the state of Rio de Janeiro, we are offering for the industry course of digital marketing that it's free, 100% free for the companies that are associated to the printing market. So we are going to have in the second half of the year a course for the companies that are associated with the market about digital marketing. And will also be a course that is going to happen in the second part of the year, second half of the year. So in this scenario, what we have to emphasize is the importance of this partnership with the companies, with the union, so we can use all the benefits throughout this unions, throughout these groups and representatives, SESI and Senai, that the companies can have any type of benefits. I believe this is what I wanted to say. I wanted to give a little of this, to share a little bit of this knowledge of my experience that we are having at Borges in this digital world. And I believe that for you to have a bigger knowledge of your client's profile, so you can get more and more and more precisely in offering your printing services. Thank you for the time that I had here. Thank you. Now we will start with the questions. Cristhine, ladies first. The question is from Osmar Santos, that is the director of the printing union of the state of Rio de Janeiro. And the question is, Cristhine, Grafitusa has more than a century. How you maintain in front of the market with so many changes? So now we only have 5 minutes and you cannot exceed your time. Yeah, there's no recipe. There's no right recipe. Every day I try to understand what's the best path. As I say in the beginning, we had a boom of digital equipment as everything that we're able to get is technological investments, and we are trying to maintain ourselves until 2013, 2014, having these strong investments in equipment and offset equipment. as we have today. We only have 4 or 5 in Brazil, and after that there's no evolution. It's closer to what Sidney is talking about this page by page checking, and we have only the colors like green, yellow, and red. So we are trying to invest, but the difficulty, what we already have in technology, to have this connectivity is what we need to transform. We need to make it easy for the client. In Alex's presentation, we know that it's already in this advanced part in giving this service to the client with. It's not being easy because we have to deal with the market difficulty because the market is still resisting, but we are focused and we have to follow the packaging. We went to the packaging services. We had a new development. We are developing a new platform, and I believe that the market's going through this way to try to offer integrated solution, as Mr. David was talking about, in a most integrated way, so the clients do not have this difficulty to hire this printing material. In the past, we have the recipe. No, do not let them call the printing services, and we solved. And this is not the right way to do things. If this is different for us to have this dependency with the clients. Nowadays, you have the model. You can go online and you have all the models and formats that you want to buy. So what we are trying is to renew throughout this platform. So we are inside this project in the state of Espírito Santo in partnership with the research foundation that had a research for they have a funding for the companies that wants to invest in this, so they go through a procedure and they understand what is going to be innovated inside the company, and it can access that fund. And last year, in the end of last year, Grafitusa and another printing company here in the state that it's working with us to have a spin-off, we are able to access this resource. It's one step. It's not enough. For you to have an innovation, it's not a unique solution. You need different forms that you need to help the client. It can be improving this managing tool, printing, calculation. This is a big limitation inside the market in Brazil. It's not cheap to have this managing tools that it's going to be printable. Everything is very expensive for a company to be able to maintain itself with this with all the taxes and all the prices that we have to pay to have an efficient management. But it's part of the game. We have to follow the rules, and what we are doing now is to bring the possibility of having the development of the client's demand inside our company to keep having this connectivity. That it's something that I consider to be the only way to right now. Maybe in 1 year we have to review our plans, because more and more we need to do it faster. We cannot keep planning in the long terms, not because of the procurement of this equipment, but this market changing, this consumption change, and the pandemic showed this to us, and we're gonna keep going more and more in this different type of experience to the client. So my way of, I have to think in this way. I think that we have small investments in the production that it's always needed. We need to change this, keep changing the software, but the main change to maintain this leadership and this in our state is to bring innovation in digital transformation in the client's experiences. Thank you, Chris. Excellent. So they are complaining. When you have 1 minute, I will raise my finger because no one will pass the time that they have. So now the question is for my friend Valter. It's from Hamilton Pinto. He's the president of the graphic printing unit of the state of Rio de Janeiro in campus. We saw that communication through web, especially in social networks, created a connection between physical and digital and became the big trump for the sales and business opportunities. What was the percentage of increase during this pandemic? Do you use systems to collect data? I understand. Thank you. Thank you for the questions. We only have to think about the sailings and the online services. One thing brings the other. In the online services, the investments that we had, this difference in the customer service when I was talking about in my presentation, this qualification for you to get to an excellency in a better service, it's what it's being the difference factor in this online service. So for you to have an analysis that it's going to be fast so the clients, you can help the client to solve these problems and everything that we know that we have in the client's file. People from the printing industry, they know what we are talking about. The file always comes with something that it needs to be fixed. So this fixing to be fast enough and efficient enough for us to work with the client, what's the difference. And we had this growth in the online services throughout these investments in training that we had.
So I can say that dealing with the client increased more than 60% during the pandemic, and consequently it generated an increase in our sales of about 20%, 25% during the pandemic time. What I consider, what I give this growth to the qualification of the online treatment. And regarding data collection, we had the whole system, our IT personnel is in-house, so we have a system to collect data where we work with data of our clients, but our job now is what I mentioned before. It is to create a management system for this data that can help us analyze the profile of our clients in a more correct way. I mean, an intelligent system to help us work digitally in a better way, in a more selected work to what we need. I hope I could answer your question. Thank you. Very good. Now we have one more question. It is to Sidney. Hi, Sidney. It is from our dear friend José Carlos Meneghetti, who is the head of ABIGRAF in Rio and director of CIGRAF, the printing union, and CEO of ZIT Participation Group. So 5 minutes, Sidney. When it's missing 1 minute, I give you the sign, okay? So the question is, different kinds of paper and techniques are arriving to the market to substitute plastic. What have you seen as a trend to benefit our sector in the sense of opening more market with the technological advancements? Do you understand my question? No, okay, I understood it. Well, Daflon, for some years I was the director of the packing group of Diário de São Paulo, and along with Braself, that was not in par yet, we created ways of having paper packets to be important, and we told everyone about all the problems we had with plastic because it was not recyclable, not biodegradable. It would pollute the rivers, and we see fish eating plastic. There is an island with billions of plastics in the sea, and it's something complicated. But there is also people behavior. Because you remember that in the past we used to smoke everywhere. You went to the doctor and light a cigarette in the waiting room. We could smoke in the airplane. And today we don't see that anymore. You see that people don't forget the mask today. You wear mask everywhere. It's just a few people today throwing a litter from the car window. And some time ago we used to have this behavior. So I believe that everything goes through a change of behavior. Well, I can tell you that my wife separates everything when she has to throw it away. And when she has to buy something, she chooses the paper bags. And everything is a matter of making people understand. Because today we have two big manufacturers here in Brazil that produce paper for flexível. And big companies are using this paper to pack chocolate and ice cream and everything they produce. I think it is a gain because paper is biodegradable. So taking a piece of plastic or a piece of paper, and if you take both of them and wait for a week with them there, when you see the paper is not there anymore, but the plastic is still there with water for the birds to drink or bathe. So it's complicated, We need to explain everything, but plastic is cheap and it's practical, so we cannot deny that. But this practicity will bring a lot of complications to us. I believe that in a very short time, the population will take that into account and will recycle because manufacturers already understood that they will be blamed for these problems we are facing on Earth. On the other hand, today, graphic machines also print plastic. There will be no difficulties in that. I think it's different from the flexible, but we can have a beautiful plastic cartridge. Hard paper is beautiful, but let's take into account that, for example, your wife celebrated her birthday, Daflon. So you go to a store and say, well, I want 250 grams of chocolate, and you take the bag to put the chocolate and give to your wife, hey, here's your present. She will be really sad because she will say that you didn't consider her, but if you get the same amount of chocolate and put it in a beautiful box produced by the printing house, when you give the present, she will fall in love with you, give you lots of hugs and kisses. So you have to take it into account. I mean, the premium package is good because you show what is there. You can show it better in the store. You use the space to have the images like in the store windows and so on and on. So I would say that paper is good, hard paper is good. It's just a matter of the population understanding that. Wonderful, Sidney. Thank you very much. And now, Alex, you will answer the last question, 5 minutes, and I'll give you the sign when time is about to be over, okay? So Graziele Claire is asking the question. She is the commercial director of Whole Print Printing House. Going in this digital subject, using digital platforms to communicate with the client implies a two-way interaction. What is your perception regarding artificial intelligence in an intentional way in the interaction with the client? Well, this is a wonderful question. First, I would like to thank people from Valprint to be here in this meeting and to participate with this question. Mr. Valter, send you hugs. And we have to understand that every company in this artificial intelligence interaction, each company has one size. So what works from a big size company is completely different from a small size company. I cannot talk to about artificial intelligence at all levels to a small client and so on. So when we started the presentation here, David Zwang showed some slides that were very interesting. Those slides about the chart flow that he created for artificial intelligence for a big company. Today, we have many companies in Brazil working with that level of automation. We created our workflow from the file preparation, and many times the operator doesn't even touch that. And when you see everything is in the machine in the end with a JDF in the final format of the machine with the colors and everything set in SIP. So this language are for medium and big size company. They understand that. But what can we do for small companies that are the majority here in our event? And the small companies may benefit from what I said, that is the biggest company with artificial intelligence in the world, that is Google. They can benefit from the digital marketing ideas with artificial intelligence, but how can they do that if they don't have this profile? They need to put in the manager's mind or learn a little bit about it to buy that. You cannot have digital market spending a lot in advertising. You need to know how to be organic, and for that you need research, and I can tell you that competition is weak in this sense. If you start working in digital market competition, if you work on that, you can be organic today. It's different from many other fields in which you can't do that anymore. You need to pay for the word you click with high value. So you need to have that. But how to do that? How to have this kind of intelligence? You need to understand that you need to be negative with some words, and you need to be able to say what you sell in a few words. You need to prepare the website to receive. You need to have a website, and you don't need to be an e-commerce to have this kind of intelligence. You need to plant the seed. It's simple. There are lots of simple softwares to create a website, but you need to be able to sell in an electronic way so that you can benefit from artificial intelligence since the small scale, so that you can have this automated flow, as our colleagues mentioned. In the end, having the report, and you know if the machine is producing well based on the data of all the other machines in the world. It knows if the feeder may need some spare part, and our company is plugged to a world company, and I know the performance of the machines, and if there's a problem in the service, the manufacturer will tell me what to do to improve the process. And it needs to be a constant improvement, 1% every week, and then you reach a high level of automation using metadata and information, all the information that the manufacturers give access to us today. And always considering that the best investment is having information and having information of artificial intelligence, you need to use that to the client so that you have new sales and you can keep the ones you already have to be healthy. This is my message. I thank a lot all of you. Valter, who is visiting us. We are waiting for the next visit with the people from Firjan. All our doors are open to all of you so that we can debate and share all this information. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody. It was amazing. This event was amazing. The quality, everyone presentation, your donation. Thank you. Thank you a lot. I give you a A+. Now I pass the floor with our great guest, my dear friend, our dear friend, Carlos Augusto de Giorgio. Good morning. I would like to thank you, Dr. Eduardo Eugenio, the entire board, the collaborators, and especially the technical team of Firjan for this great and excellent event. I thank you, ABIGRAF, with its presidents, Sidney and Anversa, that supported us to succeed in this international seminar. To Frank Romano, one of the main names in the printing industry that gave us important informations showing us the digital printing. It's the future of our businesses. Mr. David Zwang for showing you the possible paths for our companies. President of ABIGRAF Nacional, Sidney, Ms. Cristhine Samorini, President of the Espírito Santo Industries, Mr. Alexis Santos from NS, and our dear friend Valter Zanacoli, Director of Firjan, and host printing agency, also my friend Ivo Dafon and Carla Geral for the excellent role they had in this event. I extend my thanks to the president, the Union of the Printing Industry that were here during this event and sent questions to our presenters and directors. Daflon, that was said here before, Osvar Filho and José Carlos, that also occupies the role of president of ABIGRAF in Rio de Janeiro. It's important to say that this event is the first step for the new strategical planning of the printing sectors conducted by Firjan. To finalize, I'm touched, and I would like to share this with my family, with my son Vicente, that it's running the company with my companions and all the partner in the sector. I thank for everyone that was here, and for this I wrap up our event. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Thank you, Carlos.